All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Avalanche, a blockchain with an absolutely massive ambition. We're talking about a platform that aims to solve a problem that has been around since the dawn of crypto, with the ultimate goal of becoming the place where all of the world's assets are tokenized. But to even get close to that goal, you have to answer this question. For more than a decade, this has been the central puzzle. It's this constant balancing act between speed, security, and decentralization. Can you really have all three? Or are you always forced to sacrifice one to get the other two?
And this puzzle has a name, the blockchain trilemma. You know, the early pioneers like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they had to make a choice. They leaned hard into security and decentralization, but that meant scalability took a backseat. And that's exactly why, as a user, those networks can sometimes feel slow and pretty expensive. Well, Avalanche was built from the ground up to try and shatter that trade-off.
So, how in the world do they plan to do that? Well, the secret sauce starts with a totally new way of getting everyone on the network to agree, an idea that came straight out of Cornell University. What's so cool here is how different their approach is. You see, instead of every computer having a long, slow conversation with every other computer on the network, Avalanche uses this really clever gossip protocol. Picture this. A validator just asks a small random group of its friends about a transaction. If most of them agree, it adopts their opinion and then immediately asks another random group. This thing just keeps repeating, and it creates this snowball effect where agreement spreads exponentially fast. And the result of that snowball? Transaction finality. And that's the point where a transaction is totally permanent and can't be changed in under 2 seconds. Now, compare that to Ethereum, where you might be waiting over 12 minutes for that same guarantee. For things like finance or gaming, that kind of near-instant, irreversible speed is an absolute game changer. But you know, speed is just one piece of the puzzle. To avoid the kind of network-wide traffic jams that we see on other blockchains, Avalanche uses a really unique and specialized architecture. The best way to think about it is like a company that has 3 different departments, each with its own job. You've got the P chain, which is kind of like HR and strategy. It manages all the network's validators and the creation of new blockchains called subnets. Then there's the X chain. That's like the company's treasury, built to create and trade assets super fast. And finally, the C chain is the R&D lab. That's where all the apps and smart contracts actually live. By keeping these tasks separate, a super popular app launch on the C chain won't grind basic payments on the X chain to a halt. And this whole idea brings us to Avalanche's real secret weapon for scaling, subnets. A subnet is basically your own custom-built, independent blockchain that just happens to run inside the bigger Avalanche ecosystem. This lets the whole platform scale horizontally. So if you need more capacity, you don't have to make the main road wider. You just build a brand new highway right next to it. It creates this amazing network of networks, where every single application can get its own dedicated high-speed lane. Okay, so you have all this powerful technology, but the big question is, who's actually using it? Well, Avalanche has taken this really fascinating two-pronged approach to growing its ecosystem. They call it the barbell strategy. So on one end of the barbell, you've got the wild, permissionless world of DeFi and gaming. Its compatibility with Ethereum has pulled in heavy hitters like Aave and even gaming franchises like MapleStory. But on the other end of the barbell, they're using those custom subnets to build these perfectly tailored compliant solutions for some of the biggest names in traditional finance. We're talking JP Morgan, Citi, Deloitte, and even Amazon Web Services. So what's the fuel that powers this whole engine? It's the native token, AVAX, and it has 3 really critical jobs. First, you use it to pay for all the transaction fees, kind of like gas on Ethereum. Second, it's used for staking, where validators lock up their AVAX to help secure the network. And third, it's used for governance, which gives token holders a direct say in how the network evolves. Now, the token supply has a hard cap of 720 million. But the most revealing detail here, the thing that really tells you about their philosophy, is where that supply is going. A full 50%, half of all the tokens that will ever exist, are set aside for staking rewards. That shows a huge long-term commitment to making sure people are incentivized to secure this network for years and years to come. The economic model here is basically a constant tug of war. On one side, you have new AVAX being created to pay out those staking rewards. But on the other side, and this is key, every single transaction fee on the main network is burned. It's permanently destroyed. This is not like Ethereum where just a portion gets burned. Here, 100% of the fee is gone forever. This creates this incredibly powerful deflationary force that directly links how much the network is used to how scarce the token becomes. And this brings us right back to that grand vision. This quote from Ava Labs,
It just perfectly captures the end game. The unique consensus, the subnets, the barbell strategy, the tokenomics, it's all designed to build a foundation strong enough to handle the tokenization of stocks, bonds, real estate, art, literally everything.
But look, the road to get there is anything but easy. Avalanche is playing in one of the most competitive fields in all of technology, and it's facing some pretty significant hurdles. When you look at the competition, you can really see the different trade-offs in action. While some chains are all about chasing the highest possible theoretical speed, Avalanche's real killer feature is that sub-2-second finality. See, it's not just about being fast, it's about being irreversibly final fast. For anything involving high-value finance, that's the metric that really matters. But the platform isn't without its critics. The subnet model, for all its benefits, means that every new chain has to go out and find its own validators, which can kind of fragment the network's overall security. That 2,000 AVAX minimum to become a validator, that's a pretty high bar for many. And unlike Ethereum, the main network doesn't use slashing. That's where the network automatically takes a validator's staked tokens if they misbehave. The fact that they don't have that harsh penalty is seen by some as a weaker security guarantee. To their credit, though, the Avalanche team is tackling these problems head-on. The recent Etna upgrade was a huge strategic move. It was specifically designed to make subnets way cheaper and more flexible by removing the need for their validators to also secure the main network. This is a direct shot at solving that core incentive problem and hopefully re-energizing growth across the ecosystem. And all of this leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Avalanche is making a massive bet that the future isn't one single blockchain that does everything for everyone. Instead, they believe it's going to be this diverse, interconnected network of networks. So, will this vision of specialized sovereign chains win out against the giants? The answer to that is going to shape the entire next era of the internet.